Greetings to everyone out there in the NoDQ galaxy. Welcome to the final edition of NoDQ video for 2018, of course. I would like to take a moment and thank everyone for watching and supporting NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel throughout 2018 in celebration of NoDQ's 20-year anniversary. The 21st year begins 2019. A lot of big things planned, so stay tuned for all that. And with that being said, let's get down to your questions. First one today comes from Garrett Mills. With the McMahons running Raw, is it a foregone conclusion that Shane and Triple H will eventually start to feud, and will we get a match between them? Well, first of all, Garrett, it's hashtag NoDQ video, and this goes out to everyone. I'm no longer using the hashtag NoDQ turns 20 because NoDQ is in fact 20 years old now. Why do you even ask that question, though? Why do you have to torture us with the idea that this is even a possibility? It should not happen. However, it would not shock me if it does. Would not surprise me in the slightest if we see some sort of McMahon feud again. Shane versus Stephanie, Triple H versus Shane. I would just roll my eyes in the back of my head more than The Undertaker if that happened. I do not want to see it, but let's be real here. If Triple H is able to return in time for WrestleMania and Batista's unavailable, would not shock me. I would not put it past WWE for them to do some sort of McMahon storyline where they're having friction again and we get yet another Triple H versus Shane McMahon match, this time at WrestleMania. I am not a fan of it. I do not want to see it, but anything's possible with these guys. You never know with WWE what they might do in terms of doing the same tired, played out storyline over and over again. To me, that's not fixing the problem. That's not shaking things up. So, crossing my fingers that it does not happen. All right, this next one comes from Caitlin. Based on your site traffic, what were the biggest headlines of the year? Well, if we're talking about, by the way, I'm still saying this to Caitlin too, so I'm not sparing her of this. It's hashtag NoDQ video, everybody. All right, so if we're talking about what was nominated in the 2018 NoDQ.com Year-End Awards for Headline of the Year, the biggest one in terms of site traffic would probably be Enzo Amore being accused of rape. That definitely generated a lot of traffic for the site. Very noteworthy scenario, and of course Enzo was released, so you had that on top of the accusations. Just overall, a lot of headlines came out of that story. A lot of site traffic for that one. Roman Reigns, the battle with leukemia. Unfortunately, it's usually the negative stories that generate the most site traffic, which is very unfortunate. Daniel Bryan returning did generate a good amount of traffic. I'm trying to think of positive stories that generated traffic. Bryan was probably the biggest positive story. And one that was under the radar, perhaps because some people are just naive, the John Cena Nikki Bella split. It was Sunday, a non-pay-per-view Sunday, when that story broke, and I was expecting no traffic that day. That's usually one of the slow days of traffic when I have to resort to posting old photos and pictures from years ago that everyone complains about. But that turned out to be a way bigger story than I was expecting. And the follow-up with what was going on with Nikki, what was John Cena doing, those articles got a lot of traffic. So that one was definitely a bigger deal than people would like to admit. I definitely got those nobody cares about this comments when clearly people care because I was getting traffic for that. So the ones I mentioned were definitely the biggest ones of the year. Not a whole lot of positive ones, but unfortunately that's pretty much how this goes, with the negative stories generating the attention. But it's nice every now and then when something positive, like Daniel Bryan coming out of retirement, can be a really big story. Got this one here from SCW Wrestling Channel. Hey Aaron, WWE tends to screw up invasion angles, but what do you think about NXT versus NXT UK if booked correctly? Some established stars in the UK division with Dunn, Bate, and Seven could be fun and help build the UK brand, plus a good excuse to use War Games. I really like this idea, and I think it makes more sense than doing NXT versus the main roster. I know some people are pitching that idea, but NXT is a developmental brand, and it's not really an equal brand to the main roster. The NXT brand consists of young, up-and-coming superstars. That's what it's all about. That's why it's called NXT, next. They're the next ones to be the major stars. I like the idea of NXT versus NXT UK to try and get more people invested in both of those brands and just do something fun with that. I think that would be a really good idea, and like you said, you could start building it up early 2019 and you can do a blow-off next November in Chicago for NXT War Games. I think that would be awesome. I love the idea, and Triple H, I know he's not watching this. Maybe one of his stooges will be watching this. But if somebody out there from WWE is watching this, I think it's good business. I think it might be best for business in terms of getting more eyeballs watching the NXT product. I say go for it. What do you have to lose? Got this one here from Killshot. Will it be too early if Matt Riddle shows up at Royal Rumble and wins it and faces Lesnar at WrestleMania? It would be a super fight. And again, wrong hashtag. Now, to answer your question about Matt Riddle, I think it's too soon. I know on one hand it's good to push people quickly and introduce some new characters, but I think it would be best for Matt Riddle's sake to save it. Give him some time in NXT. He just got there. And I feel like even if he's ready for the big time, I think it would be best to let him make a name for himself in NXT and keep the fans anticipating it. You could still have him in the Rumble as a surprise, but I don't know if I would go as far to have him win and then face Brock Lesnar. I think that's too soon. I think WWE should wait on that. Not wait to do Brock Lesnar versus Matt Riddle. I think Brock should go away ASAP. I'm just sick of Brock Lesnar. But I do understand that viewpoint where somebody could be elevated by being called up and beating Brock Lesnar, and Matt Riddle could be that guy. So I do get that, but I just don't think the timing's right at the moment. If Matt Riddle had, let's say, 6 more months of NXT experience and then you wanted to do it, I would say, yeah, maybe go for it. But I feel like it's just too soon. And then next year I think is too long because I want Brock gone. So yeah, I just don't think the timing is right for it. Got this one here from Boogeyman79. Hey Aaron, with WWE announcing all the NXT call-ups, do you think it spoils the outcome of the matches, especially title matches? And thank you, Boogeyman, for using the correct hashtag now. I know I was doing NoDQ turns 20 for the entire year, so I know it's a force of habit for people, but in the future, I would request everybody please use the new hashtag so I don't miss your question in the future. So anyways, to answer your question, I don't think in the case of the new guys like EC3 and Lacey Evans and the others, I don't think that's a big deal because they're pretty much just floundering in NXT anyways. EC3 was really doing nothing significant. And Nikki Cross, there's been talk about her being called up for the longest time. And, they're pretty much, they've done all they can do in NXT. And I think it's fine. Now, if WWE announced Ciampa, who's the world champion or the NXT champion, whatever you want to call it, if WWE announced Ciampa being called up when he's still the champion, then yeah, that kind of takes away from it, makes it anticlimactic because you know he's going to be dropping the title. Kind of what happened, I think, with Kevin Owens when they announced him being called up when he was still NXT champion. So I'm not a fan of that. But I think for these other guys that are not holding a title, they haven't really been doing much, I see no issue with it. This one comes from Daza 2006 or 20,006. Would you like to see John Cena win the Universal Championship for his 17th championship? No, because I personally have no desire to see Cena versus Lesnar again. It's done. Not interested. I would much rather see John Cena versus the new Daniel Bryan. I think that's a much more interesting match. And if somebody's beating Brock Lesnar, doesn't need to be Cena. Let somebody else get the rub. I'd rather it be Matt Riddle than John Cena. Just saying. I think it's totally unnecessary. And I think Cena versus Bryan would be a more interesting match. So I'm going to say Cena versus Bryan. That's my choice. If Cena's going to win that 17th world title, I say have him beat Bryan. Got this one here from Joshua. Is it safe to say that EC3 will be better off being called up as an entitled heel over a smiling babyface? Oh, I agree 100%, or 99% if we're talking EC3 terms. I think that EC3 should definitely be a heel. He just has that cocky demeanor to him. We saw it in TNA/Impact Wrestling, and I think he's way better off as a heel than a face. Maybe down the line he could turn face, but when he did it in TNA, it didn't even work that well. The ass-kicking machine or whatever they were calling him just wasn't cutting it for me. I think he's way better as the heel who feels he's entitled. He's that top 1%. He's better than everyone else. I think he's best off being that heel character, and he will do much better as a heel. Look what happened to Bobby Roode. It'll just be a repeat of that if EC3 is called up as a face. You know, he'll fall flat pretty quickly, I think, if he's a face. But could be wrong. I was wrong about Enzo and Cass being a big deal, although that only lasted for a year or two until that all fizzled out. Got this one here from Resident Sleeper 22. Hey Aaron, if Charlotte versus Ronda and Becky versus Asuka happen at the Rumble, could we see a swerve where Becky wins the title, then costs Ronda in her match, and Ronda is actually the one that enters and wins the Rumble to challenge Becky for WrestleMania? That would be an interesting swerve if we saw Ronda lose the title and then enter the Royal Rumble and win it and then challenge Becky. Could happen. I mean, I feel like WWE has pretty much given up on the idea of Becky being a heel, and that seems like WWE doing that would basically be forcing Becky as a heel again by having her screw over Ronda, and then Ronda goes through the Rumble to win and then challenges Becky. I mean, just feels like it's ass backwards, you know? Unless WWE wants to continue to try and divide the fans and get them worked up by treating Becky like a heel. Who knows? But it would be interesting, you know, it would go against what we're all thinking at this time, which is that Becky will fail to win back the title and then win the Royal Rumble and then challenge Ronda Rousey. Now, apparently, at the Raw in Detroit, there was something on the big screen stating that the Rumble winner can challenge for either title. So it looks like WWE is going to make it clear that this year the winner of the Rumble can go for either brand's championship, which leads you to believe that either Becky or possibly in a swerve, Ronda wins the Women's Rumble and then challenges the other at WrestleMania. Got this one here from the Forgotten One. Hey Aaron, keep up the good work. With Vince finally acknowledging the poor rating and saying they're going to give us what we want to see, if Roman Reigns' leukemia never returns, would they turn him heel to boost up the ratings? Probably not. See, now that Roman got sick, I think the fans will be easier on him. I don't think that they will ever 100% stop booing him. I think you'll still have the portion of the crowd that does that. However, I think they're going to be easier on him now. And like I said a year or two back, WrestleMania with The Undertaker, that was the time to turn him. I said it then. If WWE wasn't going to do it then there's probably no point in doing it. Just like with Cena with the heel turn. 2011, 2012, when The Rock came back, that would have been a great time to turn Cena heel when Kane was doing that whole storyline with Cena to rise above hate or whatever, embrace the hate, whatever it was. And then Cena lost to The Rock. He could have lost to Lesnar and then finally snapped, but he ended up beating Lesnar. Cena ended up beating Lesnar. That would have been the perfect time. And then after that, I'm like, there's no point now. You had the perfect opportunity and you didn't capitalize. And that's how I felt about Roman Reigns. I felt like 2017 was the right time with Undertaker. Didn't happen. And when he comes back, a lot of fans are going to be easier on him. So I think it's a missed opportunity. I say, why bother at this point? Watch, they end up doing it now. But I don't think they will. This one comes from Brandon. Hey Aaron, when will TNA die? That show is so damn boring. That last time I watched TNA, or whenever last day for TNA was on Spike TV. It's been that long, you don't even know what the name of the network is. Spike TV, whatever. I have no idea. And every time I get asked this question, I'm like, every time we predict the demise of TNA/Impact Wrestling, they always manage to stick around on a total shoestring budget. They somehow manage to keep going, and I don't see anything changing. I mean, as long as there are people willing to fund TNA and they can break even, they'll probably stay in business. You know, if they keep losing money, eventually somebody's going to get fed up, but maybe they'll be able to find somebody else to keep funding the company on a shoestring budget. So, that's basically where TNA is at right now. They're more or less a glorified indie promotion with now a TV deal on Pursuit TV. We'll see what happens, but I'm not going to say anything about how long I think they're going to stay in business. I mean, they somehow manage to keep on going. They're like the Energizer Bunny. They just keep going and going. I think it would be better for a new promotion to rise up and have those resources, a brand that actually isn't tarnished, but that's just my own personal opinion, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with all that. That'll do it for this edition of NoDQ Video. If you enjoyed the video, please share it, tell a friend about NoDQ Video. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest, and I will see you guys in 2019. Take care, everybody.